we don't get sober to drift away into the ethers. At least for me, it's like you got to have purpose in your life. You have to have meaning. You have to have a reason to get up every day and be active in life. And it's got to be something bigger than yourself, and there's self-esteem in working. Let me just say that.
I was just telling somebody the other day, and you just touched on it. I think that was a version of sobriety is not its own gift.
Well said.
I mean, it just isn't. Okay. What happens, we grew up in AA, right? So what happens is some well-meaning person says something that he heard from another well-meaning person who repeats it to the next guy and then repeats it to the guy after that. And nobody knows what the hell they're saying. It's groupthink, right? And I've always said that if you can't replace what you held most valuable, which was your drugs and your alcohol, with something of greater or equal value, you cannot stay sober. And why would you? Okay. When I say things like that, people go insane. You're going to go insane in a little bit when you read my book on transcendence. You're going to freak out. Okay. Good for you.
Good.
Do all the freaking out you want.
Yeah. So, when I got sober, I found recovery from my drug and alcohol problem, right? So that was one path of how to deal with alcoholism and addiction. I got sober and I did the things that sober people do in order to stay sober. But what I found was there was a really big gap between my physical sobriety and my mental conditioning, meaning my mind for 42 years had been conditioned with a narrative from my past. And I kept listening to that narrative from my past, and it really affected how I thought about myself.
And that's why you didn't like when I said, I'm going to choke before I threw that football right through that.
That's right. That's right. Because I think words are tools. Words are the wardrobe of our identity. And I really didn't realize how powerful my influence was over me. And at the end of the day, what I realized was that for 42 years, that there was this pen to the story of my life, and that I had given it away, this small, simple device that you can buy for $1.29 at CVS.
Show me.
I had, this small little device, which you can buy for $1.29 at CVS. But this one's unique because what it says on it is my life, my pen. And I realized that I was going to change my life only if I took this back. And that's really the mission that I went on, was to change the narrative of my story myself and become the intentional author of my life, and to get rid of the old story and not let it define me, but redefine it for me.
So what you're talking about is negative self-talk.
I am. I'm talking about the whole gamut of mental conditioning, right? Mental conditioning is how our mind gets conditioned, and self-talk is a huge component of it, right? We have thoughts in our mind that create words. Words create pictures, which pictures then create feelings in our body that dictate our behavior. So if I'm never going to outperform my identity, if my identity is like a thermostat sitting on the wall, right? Thermometers take the temperature, thermostats set it. My identity is like a thermostat, and my thermostat, my identity, had been conditioned by my past instead of by me personally. And so I went on a journey of self-discovery, of learning the best ways for me to reprogram and relearn how to think about myself.
So the way I think about that is, when I was a child, right, and not getting my needs met, right, and smacked and beaten, and you're stupid, I'll give you something to cry about, right, all that stuff, you form something in your mind because your frontal cortex isn't developed, right? So you can't say my parents are idiots. You can't do that.
Doesn't exist.
So the only thing you can think of at that point with your development at that point is, I'm bad. And you must be bad, because if the people that brought you into the world don't love you, or it feels like they don't love you, then you must be bad. And then it just gets reinforced by your parents, and then, trying to find your way in school as a teen. And it's just all of it, right? But after that, if you don't fix it, it doesn't stop.
Do you know why?
Yeah, because it wasn't fixed.
Well,
and it stacked on top of each other and on top of each other and on top of each other and on top of each other. And the weight was too big to carry.
Yeah. There's a concept in psychology called expectancy theory, and what you focus on expands. At the end of the day, you become what you think about most of the time. So with this program, I always think of my mind as having a computer virus installed at a young age that just fed on itself.
That's exactly right.
And so how it feeds on itself is your mind has a dominant thought about who you are, and then it seeks through your unhealed trauma and your ill-conceived ego to find reasons that that's true. Your ego wants to help you act like you. So if you think you're bad, or I thought I was bad, and I thought I wasn't good enough, and I thought that I was not enough because the people put on this earth to protect me were violently abusing me and telling me I wasn't enough and that I'd never amount to anything, my mind sought out all of the evidence to prove that was true.
Right.
All over the place.
That's right. But when do you want to change that? When do you want to let a 45-year-old man stop being run by a 5-year-old child?
When you take this pen back. And this is the kind of the symbol of that transformation, is when I decide to write, like no one else now is going to write on the next page of the story of my life. I'm going to take this and I'm going to decide who I want to be.
Okay. But when that's finally healed, for me, and not for you, for me, the problem is negative self-talk all the time. And I've tried this over and over and over and over again. And I take 2 steps forward and 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. I mean, it's just like, and I know why. It's because I haven't made it a must, right? That's the reason. If it's not something I must do, I have to do, then it ain't getting done.
Yeah, this is a great point, because I think people confuse this because it's never done, right? Your inner critic is installed to keep you safe. Your inner critic, that negative self-talk, that voice, is designed to help you to survive, not to thrive. And so it's never going to lay down unless you put it down. So I'll say it this way. Confidence and self-esteem are a daily battle, not a decisive victory. And this opponent needs a constant front against him in order for him to be silenced in every single moment. And at the end of the day, I always think of it like if I was a pro golfer and my inner critic was my caddy telling me I suck and I'm going to hit every shot in the water and I don't deserve to be out here, I would fire that guy in a second. So why do I let this guy, without a script of his own, and this is when you talk about a must, we must give our inner champion a voice. We must recognize we have an inner champion. We must know how to write confidence conditioning statements. And then we need to, like a computer program, attack that virus every single day. And negative self-talk is the wardrobe of our identity. And I've showed you the clip of Bill Buckner saying, I don't want the ground ball to go through my legs to cost us the World Series. We're listening to ourselves all the time. And our ego is designed to help us act like us. And it doesn't care how it makes us feel, by the way. If the negative self-talk makes you feel bad or makes you feel insecure, makes you feel negative, it doesn't care. It's just used to doing its job, which is to keep you safe and protected and not taking chances.
We're out of time. Please subscribe on YouTube, click the thumbs up, and leave a comment. Please subscribe on Apple Podcast and Spotify and leave a rating and a review. And share the We're Out of Time podcast with others you know who will get value out of it. See you next Tuesday.